And you know what? Turns out Alvin Kamara is really f***ing good. And so what are we doing? Like, he's really f***ing good. And here's a guy that last year, on a points-per-game basis, was the 4th best running back in fantasy football.
Yeah.
A top 4 running back. What the f*** are we doing, people?
Yeah.
Alvin Kamara is a top 6 player this year. Cheers. Cheers and bottoms up to the bleepers here at NBC. I kept them busy yesterday.
Bit of a workload.
But I'm bleeping right. I made a promise to NBC that I wouldn't curse today, but I'm effing right. Effing right about Alvin Kamara. He's Jay Croucher. I'm Matthew Berry. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. It is our love-hate show. If you're watching this live on Peacock TV, thank you so much. My love-hate article will be out later today on NBCSportsEdge.com, RotoWorld.com. If you're listening to this on a podcast, wherever you get your podcast, you're watching this on demand on Peacock or on the NFL on NBC YouTube channel, check it out. The article should be up right now. We had to hold it up a little bit because of the RotoWorld news that came out just before we went on the air. Tyron Smith, the offensive tackle of Dallas, the very good offensive tackle of the Dallas Cowboys, going to be out until December. This just in. The Cowboys are worse without him.
They are worse without him, and now the Eagles are actually joint favorites to win the NFC East with the Cowboys.
What about my Commanders?
Did
the odds of my Commanders change?
You got to scroll further down. It changes a little bit, but not really. It's more about the Eagles. I think they're more of a chance. And now it's the...
Wait, is this just odds in general? Are these your odds? Are these the odds on where you work?
Yeah, these are the odds at PointsBet. But okay. I think most of the market is
Did you not see all the Commanders jerseys we have up here? Did that not factor into your odds for them winning?
Yeah, Chris Cooley. Yeah, he factors in. Look,
we got Riggins, too.
Yeah, well,
and back there somewhere, we've got a Jason Campbell.
Bit more disaster potential now for the Cowboys.
Right.
And now it's the Josh Ball show.
Right.
Rookie fourth rounder who comes in. They lost Lyle Collins. This is the thing with offensive lines. You lose one guy.
Collins goes to Cincinnati in the offseason, correct.
So now they're down both their tackles from last year. Tyron Smith, I think, was the second best tackle in the NFL after Trent Williams. And Lyle Collins was a top 20 tackle as well. So when you have cluster changes, it's not good.
Right. So we looked at the numbers here. Again, without Tyron Smith, last 2 years, Ezekiel Elliott averages, as you see it here on your screen, he's averaging fewer rushing yards per attempt, fewer rushing yards per game, fewer fantasy points per game. Or I guess the Cowboys offense is the Cowboys offense overall, not just Zeke. So their scoring is down, their rushing yards per game is down, and the rushing yards per attempt. It certainly affects the run game, it feels like, more than the passing game, although Dak's numbers without Tyron Smith are also pretty bad, sort of noticeable. Just give you some quick headlines here. Zeke, 1 point a game worse without Tyron Smith than he has been with Tyron over the last 2 years. CeeDee Lamb, 5 points worse, but we also expect CeeDee Lamb to go up quite a bit. Dalton Schultz, basically about the same. He's missed 20 games over the last 2 seasons. If there's any silver lining to this, they're used to it.
They are used to it.
They are used to it. To me, they're all still viable fantasy starters. My take is, I think the most viable of them is CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is on my love list. He still is within the number one wide receiver in fantasy is still within the range of outcomes for CeeDee Lamb because he's still got a very good quarterback. He's still going to get a massive target share on a good offense, right? I think Ezekiel Elliott, move him down slightly. I've talked him up on this show.
Yep.
Candidly, after the show, I'm going to crunch a little bit more numbers. He was on the love list. I've taken him off until I want to do a little bit more research there. So he may or may not make it back on. If there's a positive, if you've already drafted Ezekiel Elliott, I think he's still going to get massive volume.
Yep,
I think he's still a viable RB2.
I think the problem with CeeDee Lamb, though, is that he's going wide receiver 6.
Yep.
So if he's going to exceed expectations, by definition, he has to be a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, and that's a pretty high threshold to clear. And now you lose Tyron Smith. And look, we have all these stats of all the players and the impact. Everyone worse. That's the headline. Everyone gets worse without Tyron Smith.
Yeah.
And we've gotten so used to thinking about the Cowboys as having this incredible offensive line because they've had Smith and Zach Martin and Collins, and that's been their identity. This isn't a great offensive line anymore. It might be fine. It might be middle of the pack.
Right.
But Zach Martin is the only special lineman on the team now.
I would agree with that. What I would say, though, is specific to the CeeDee Lamb, and I think the Dak Prescott piece of it here is interesting, too. Dak Prescott's still a QB1, but I think he's slightly lower now. I think he's in that Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers range I suppose he was sort of like kind of top 7-ish.
Yep.
And now I think he's more in the 9 to 11 range. Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, guys that are going around there. I think Joe Burrow is going way too high for me on Yahoo, but I think he's in that range. But what I would say here about CeeDee Lamb is, again, he can play all over the field. He can play the slot. And so if you are suddenly under pressure like you are Dak Prescott and you need to get rid of the ball quickly, CeeDee Lamb is who he's going to be looking for.
Yeah, quite the thing with Dak Prescott, there was like 2 months of the season last year where he wasn't good. Heading into the end of the season, he just wasn't good for like 2 months. I think he's a guy who really needs the context to help him, to have a good offensive line, to have multiple receivers, and he just didn't have that. Well, he's not going to have that now, so I think it's an important year for Dak.
Well, by the way, and it's two other things that go against Dak here before we move on to the rest of my love-hate list. Number one is like their defense is suddenly good.
Yes.
For years, their defense was terrible, and Dak got into all these shutouts.
Team now.
It's actually a defensive team. That's right. And so he doesn't have to get into shootouts. And so, early in Dak's career, he was rushing for. I think there was like 3 straight years where he had 6 rushing touchdowns, and that hasn't been a part of his game recently as well. So those are the concerns. Adding Mike McCarthy as the head coach, they've gone to a more balanced offense. Sometimes they go really run heavy. It's interesting here, but I think Dak now is much more of a lower end floor fantasy quarterback than there are other QBs going in the range that I think probably have higher upside than Dak Prescott, but still a low end QB1. Let's now move to my love-hate list, and we're in the running back situation. Whoa, that was a loud. Did you hear how loud that was?
That was abrupt.
It was a lot going on. Goodness gracious. All right. Chris McCaffrey, you may have heard of him.
Yeah, I'm familiar with his work.
Now, and people I'm sure at home, or wherever you watch this, I don't know, a park bench, an insane asylum, who knows, maybe at a bar with us, that would be great. It is 5 o'clock somewhere, drink up, are probably going like, really, Barry? You
like Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, you like Christian McCaffrey? Let me write that down.
You think Tom Brady's good at football too?
Right, exactly. It's and so I'm sure they're probably sitting there, doing that. I've got him ranked number 2 overall. He's going 5th overall on Yahoo, and that's my argument. He's going as the running back 3 on Yahoo. I've seen him go as low as 5 overall, and so putting him on the love list is my way of saying, like, I'm in. I get it. He's burned you the last 2 years. He's missed over 20 games the last 2 years. You've used an early round pick on him, and he has hurt you. He's played in only 10 games since 2020. I understand the anti-Christian McCaffrey argument. My argument is very simply like to quote me about Alvin Kamara, he's really blanking good.
Yeah, he's good.
Really blanking good.
Also, the thing with him is the injury risk. Every running back is an injury risk.
Every running back.
Yes, he is more of an injury risk than Jonathan Taylor, but honestly, not that much more because of the nature of the position. And some of these injuries, I'd be a little bit worried about, the hamstring that he did, but these other injuries, it's like a lineman falls on his ankle. Like that can happen to anyone. He had his shoulder sprained. That's not predictive of necessarily future injuries.
There is a difference in terms of injuries. There are players that are injury prone and there are players that are unlucky.
Yeah.
And we both think Chris McCaffrey's just been unlucky the last 2 years.
It's not a degenerative knee or anything. It's random stuff keeps
It's not
happening.
a soft tissue issue that's going to continually come up. And so I keep going back to this. But again, it is the Talladega Nights Ricky Bobby quote, if you ain't first, you're last.
One of your favorites.
Right, it really is. And so, as is, he's really blanking good.
Yeah, that's the new one.
That's the new one. Let's get that on T-shirts. Can we get that on T-shirts, right? And so you can't bleep a T-shirt. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, whatever. I mean, I have a page full. Literally a page full of stats. Do you guys need me to talk about how good Chris McCaffrey is? Do I really need to read a bunch of stats here? Here's one that includes Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, my
here's
guy.
A stat.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield, 61 completions to running backs last season with the Browns. Running backs accounted for 24% of his completions last year, and that was with like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. None of them are as good as Chris McCaffrey. Right,
looks
there
amazing.
You go. Look how now he's in practice. Here he's blocking.
Incredible blocking.
You don't get fantasy points for blocking, but it's cool to look at. You should. But he certainly looks fast there.
He's so much faster than us.
Very fast, very fast. He dives down, looks fully healthy there. We're showing very exciting video of him. Anyway, whatever. Chris McCaffrey, when he's healthy, is awesome, and I'm buying into it. He's on the love list. Let's move on to 2 teammates, and that's Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And it's weird because, so Matt LaFleur, we played the quote on the show earlier this week, calling them 1A and 1A. And so you're like, wow, you got 2 guys.
It's annoying.
It is annoying.
Yeah.
But it is intuitive. It's also helpful because it tells you, like, listen, A.J. Dillon's going to get his.
Yep.
My question is, I think people see that and they're like, oh, it's going to be committee. I want no part of a committee. And I disagree. I think you want both pieces of the committee. I argue that I believe both Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are startable running backs this year. I would invest in both guys this year. I think both guys are undervalued. I should have started the show this way, and I didn't. But love-hate for people who are, whatever, I'm not a host. I'm not a host and I'm half drunk. But if you look at the numbers here on your screen, they're pretty equal in terms of what they're doing. We expect with no Davante Adams, there's more fantasy goodness to go around to both these guys. It's going to be a more balanced offense. They're going to have both running backs on the field at the same time. I think they're going to get more creative. Love-hate is always about ADP. I don't love players. I don't hate players. I love and hate their average draft position, specifically on Yahoo. Aaron Jones is going 16th overall. I have him at 13th overall. In the 7 games that Davante Adams missed with Green Bay under the Matt LaFleur era with Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback, Aaron Jones averaged 25.7 fantasy points per game, would have been the number 1 running back in fantasy last year. He averages almost 5 receptions a game when Adams is out. Big part of the passing game. And then you think about A.J. Dillon here, who should get more work, had more rushing touchdowns, actually was better than Jones from week 4 on last year. Dillon is going like in the 6th round. I think that's insane too. Both guys are viable.
Yep. Couple things here too. Right now, we have the Packers favored in every single game they're playing this year, outside of at Tampa Bay and at Buffalo. So they're favored in 15 of 17 games, which means they're going to be running the ball in fourth quarters. They're going to have those opportunities. Every team in their division, outside of them, has a bad run defense. So bottom 10 by DVOA. There's going to be opportunity to run. And then with Davante Adams out, like we're looking at, well, I think most people are looking at like, oh, is Romeo Doubs going to step up? It's Christian Watson. They're looking at wide receiver out. Who's the wide receiver in? No, it's like wide receiver out, running backs up. Because I think it's going to go to Jones and Dillon. They're the guys who really benefit from Adams being out.
A.J. Dillon caught 34 of 37 passes last year, which isn't a massive number, but it just goes to show, like, here's a guy that didn't catch a ton of passes in college, and people look at him. I've said this before, but they look at those massive thighs. I'm jealous of those massive thighs, Quadzilla, the Quad Father, and like this guy can't catch.
Yeah.
And I think last year he proved that he could, and so I think you'll see him more involved in the passing game as well. Again, it is weird, but I believe both players are undervalued on Yahoo. Nice use of DVOA. Shout out to Aaron Schatz. He's somewhere he's going, and I'm like, wow, that was pretty awesome. All right. Now this is the hate section.
Sad.
This is the negative. This is sad.
Well, you gotta
but
hate
again,
people.
I don't hate players. I hate ADP. I think that's important. Every player has value if you can get them at the right price. I just don't think Nick Chubb is going at the right price. Currently going as running back 9. I'm at running back 16 in PPR. Here's a guy who had 6 different games of less than 10 fantasy points in 2021. He's averaged just 23 receptions in his career per season. 23. He's not part of the passing game. He is volume and touchdown dependent. Good offensive line.
Not as good now, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not as good, 100%. They've had some losses on that offensive line in Cleveland. And let's face it. So Jacoby Brissett is a massive downgrade from what they had last year.
Yep.
Forget Deshaun Watson. He's a downgrade from Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
And so I don't think this offense is going to be as efficient or as in scoring position as much as it was last year. I thought it was interesting, Jay, that they re-signed D'Ernest Johnson to a nice deal. For a 3rd round, for a number 3 running back, they gave him some real money, in the running back world. And so I weirdly think D'Ernest Johnson, I don't think he gets a massive workshop, but if D'Ernest Johnson gets 5 touches a game, 7 touches a game somehow, that eats into Chubb because Kareem Hunt's also going to get his. Nick Chubb is one of the best pure runners in the NFL. I'm not questioning his NFL talent, but to have him go 9th ahead of guys like I've seen him go ahead of Aaron Jones, like I'm out on him at his current ADP. Again, I am at running back 16, 28th overall. He's going 15th on Yahoo.
Yeah, I think the analog for what this Cleveland offense might look like, and it's not going to be this bad, but that Monday night game against the Raiders where their whole team had COVID, Baker Mayfield was out, it was the Nick Mullins show. Jacoby Brissett's better than Nick Mullins, but it's not like he's miles and miles better.
Right.
And that game, Chubb had 23 carries for 91 yards. He got the entire workload because Kareem Hunt was out, but 1 reception. He had a touchdown, but that's kind of the best case you're looking at. And I think he's a guy who's going to have, he'll probably have 1,100, 1,200 yards, 10 TDs, but no passing game work and not as many red zone opportunities because the offense is going to be worse with Brissett. And then you've got Kareem Hunt breathing down your neck as well. So it's difficult to really see the upside that you want when you're looking at someone that high in the draft.
And then you think about the other running backs that are going around him: Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley.
Yep.
All of them more. All of them have 3-down ability. All of them will catch passes. Again, even if you're on Yahoo and you're in half-point PPR, it adds up. Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, all of them have top 3 running back in fantasy upside the way that Nick Chubb doesn't, unless Nick Chubb suddenly scores like 20 touchdowns. And we're just not expecting that given they got 11 games of Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
And then they've got Deshaun Watson won't have played football in a year and a half when he shows up.
Exactly.
Look, so I have Miles Sanders on the hate list. It is kind of a tradition, if I'm being honest here, right? Is the third year in a row, Aaron Rodgers, I've had Miles Sanders on the hate list. I'm 2 for 2.
Yeah.
And I might be going to the well one too many times here by putting him on the hate list because his ADP continues to drop. People are, before he was being drafted as like a first rounder, then a second round, and I'm just like, guys, look at this offense. He's finally now going down. He's running back 28. He's going 73rd overall. I'm at 80th overall. So I'm in the same range here. But my concern on Miles Sanders is that, he gets outrushed by Jalen Hurts on the goal line. He had 130 rushing attempts last year. He had 0 rushing touchdowns. He's the only running back in the NFL that can actually say that. And if you don't believe me on not drafting him, will you believe at least Miles Sanders? Miles Sanders did an interview with NBC Philadelphia, I swear to God, with NBC Universal, with John Clark of NBC Philadelphia. And he literally said, "Don't pick me in fantasy," because he knows they want to use multiple running backs. You're going to see some Boston Scott. You're going to see some Kenneth Gainwell, and you're obviously going to see Jalen Hurts around the goal line. Again, it goes to ADP. He's going ahead. Here's some guys he's going ahead of on Yahoo: Devin Singletary, Rashad Penny, Chase Edmonds, Ramondre Stevenson, Cordero Patterson, Dameon Pierce. I'd rather have all those guys than Miles Sanders.
It's just such a narrow gap for him to shoot to be really good because he's not getting red zone touches. Jordan Howard had more red zone touches on the Eagles last season than Miles Sanders. Right. He's not really getting passing game work. So it's like, all right, you've got a first and second down back who now is carrying an injury issue as well.
And that's been an issue throughout his career. Staying healthy and fumbles, both things that don't get you more playing time.
There are like 6 different things where if one goes wrong, then he's just sunk. And they all have to go right. And then if they all go right, even then what really is he? Like 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns? That seems like a really good case scenario. So, yeah, I just don't see the upside.
Right. We both agree there. I'm going to go one last one here for me that made the hate list, and of course check out the entire list. I'm told by my producers that I talk too much, and so we have to skip Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but just know that he's on the hate list. And that's Breece Hall. I don't understand Breece Hall, where he's going. He's going 19th among running backs. He's going top 20.
Is he starting?
No, I don't think he is. Like, again, they held Michael Carter out in the second game of the preseason. Breece Hall played.
Yeah.
This is a San Francisco coaching staff that believes in multiple running backs. Okay, last year, the Jets had the fewest amount of rushing attempts in 2021. I think they're probably, I don't know what the odds are, but my guess is they're probably favorites to be last in the league in rushing yards or pretty close. Michael Carter had 183 total touches last year. Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson combined for 190.
Yep.
I mean, like, again, it is a committee, and that's Tevin Coleman, Ty Johnson, Michael Carter.
Yep.
So you've got Breece Hall, who will be in a committee on a bad team behind a poor offensive line that just lost Mekhi Becton for the year.
Yep.
And he's going 19th?
He's going 20 picks in front of A.J. Dillon at the moment. I might just prefer to have A.J. Dillon straight up.
I'm begging my producers to let me curse at the audience. What are we blanking doing?
Yeah. The one thing with Breece Hall is that the way he projects is that some of the commentary is like, this guy's the next Jonathan Taylor. But he's not going to be Jonathan Taylor in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. He is a guy that I could definitely see if he gets the starting job at some point, then his metrics are just off the charts. And if Zach Wilson improves as well when he comes back and the offense looks better, but this is a lot of ifs for a guy that's not even starting right now.
Yeah, the pro Breece Hall argument is he's really good.
Yeah.
Like, we believe in the skill set and the draft capital. The Jets use it. But again, like, you think about the coaching philosophy, they want multiple running backs. They are Kyle Shanahan disciples. This is a coaching staff that came from San Francisco, and they've used it. That's what they did last year. They used multiple running backs here. And by the way, Michael Carter's good.
Yeah.
Like, Michael Carter didn't do anything wrong last year to lose his job. No. Like, they want Michael Carter. And so if they're going to use Michael Carter on third down in some passing game work, that also hurts Breece Hall's ability. Again, this is a team that had the least amount of rushing attempts last year. I don't have to see anything from that defense that makes me think like, oh, this is suddenly a team that's going to be leading in a lot of games this year.
No, they're a 6-win team.
Yeah, they're a 6-win team. There you go. Do not draft Breece Hall inside your top 20. That is our hate running backs. When we come back, more hate, but a lot more love. A lot more love. Except for people that draft Breece Hall in the top 20. I don't love them. I don't understand them. Yeah, you're right, Mike Florio. We are drinking booze, and we don't care. Yeah, no hair, don't care. Understand what I'm talking about? Yeah, they want to know what's on the red Solo cups. And I don't know what's in your red Solo cup, but I will tell you what's in here. Pure tequila. What's in your Solo cup today?
Again, not Foster's. You know, I got a lot of texts from people.
Did you?
Asking, Australians don't actually drink Foster's, which makes me think, like, what do people actually think happens in Australia? Like, I think everyone thinks it's like you're on the beach in this paradise, but also dodging killer animals at all times while drinking Foster's. I don't really think.
What I believe happens in Australia is, yes, you sit on the beach, and kangaroos wearing like little bow ties bring you drinks.
Yeah.
You know, trained kangaroos, obviously. You know, they have them in their little pouch.
Yeah.
They bring out a drink and you put the money in the pouch. And then there's probably like some big screen that's showing like Yahoo Serious and and Crocodile Dundee, all three of them.
I think
the underrated Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles, of course, gets played there. And then and then whatever you're listening to, like Men at Work, little Colin Hay, some of the solo stuff as well. You're doing that, right? That's what I think happens in Australia. Yeah, obviously.
I think we just cleared the over 2.5 prop for our references of Yahoo Serious this week.
Serious. Yeah. We got to get him on the show. I bet you we could get him on the show.
I think he's available.
He might be available. Time for wide receiver love hate here. And Allen Robinson, I'm all in on Allen Robinson this year.
I know you are. You love it.
Look, I mean, it's like sort of like obvious analysis, but just because it's obvious doesn't mean it isn't true. He is playing with the best quarterback of his career, and it's not close.
Yeah. Did we see what happened to Cooper Kupp last year when he got Matthew Stafford?
But that's the great point, right? Yeah. I mean, don't underestimate the importance of a quarterback upgrade. That's exactly right. Jared Goff to Matthew Stafford was a massive upgrade for my little Cooper Kupp. So what do you think is going to happen when Allen Robinson gets to graduate from Blake Bortles, Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles, Chase Daniel, Andy Dalton?
All these guys are worse than Jared Goff.
All these guys are worse than Jared Goff. And now he's going to Matthew Stafford, who's in his second year in McVay's system. And there are a ton of targets available now with Odell Beckham Jr. not there, Robert Woods not there. Again, think about the fact that last year there were 11 different times that a non-Cooper Kupp pass catcher for the Rams had over 15 fantasy points. Again, Robert Woods was like a top 16 fantasy wide receiver on a points per game basis. This is an offense that throws enough and is good enough that can support two top 15 fantasy wide receivers. Last year, they were top 5 in red zone pass attempts and goal to go pass attempts. Allen Robinson's like 6'2", can win those 50-50 balls. Cooper Kupp's going to get more attention this year.
That's the thing is with the passing volume, because I think people still kind of have it in their heads that Sean McVay is all about outside zone and running Todd Gurley and CJ Anderson. But this is a passing offense now. The only team that threw the ball more on first down last year than the Rams were the Bucs. So they really want to throw the ball, and there's going to be a lot of volume to go around. So, yeah, I don't really see the case against Allen Robinson. Outside, he's a little bit older, maybe, than you'd like, but still.
The only case against Allen Robinson is last year.
Yeah.
Because he's been quarterback proof. He was bad last year.
Yeah.
He was bad last year. But guess what? So are the Bears.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, who do we blame for the Bears being terrible last year? Are we blaming Allen Robinson, who's produced every year of his career?
Yep.
Are we blaming Matt Nagy, who got fired?
Yeah.
Are we blaming the quarterbacks? Justin Fields, who was sort of put in a situation where he couldn't win, a rookie quarterback? Are we blaming the fact that maybe Allen Robinson was a little bit banged up? Or maybe the fact that, you can decide whether you think this is right or not, but probably checked out a little bit. Obviously, things had gone really sour between him and the franchise, the Chicago Bears franchise, I should say.
I think it's totally defensible to check out on that team. I would be worried if you stayed checked in.
Yeah,
There'd be something wrong. You're just risking injury.
It appeared like Matt Nagy kind of checked out last year.
Yeah.
Bears fans absolutely checked out. All I'm saying is that I think Les Snead, the general manager of the Rams, and Sean McVay have earned kind of a benefit of the doubt here.
Yep.
Every move they made last year worked out. They signed Allen. They looked at everything. They interviewed him. They talked to him, and they signed him to a big deal. Allen Robinson. They paid Allen Robinson big money. They're going to make him a thing. They're going to make him work. So anyway, I'm all in on Allen Robinson. I'm at wide receiver 16, 36th overall. He's going 54th overall on Yahoo. So I'm significantly ahead of that. Another guy I'm all in on this year is Rashod Bateman.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the Ravens a little bit here. 24% of the targets from the Ravens last year, 146 targets that Marquise Brown got, are now in Arizona. And they didn't really do anything in free agency, right? I mean, so nothing significant. DeMarcus Robinson, whatever. I mean, just got there. Isaiah Likely seems like he's going to get some run. He's had a really nice preseason here. But it's going to be Mark Andrews and Rashod Bateman. And even if they go more run heavy, last year the Ravens actually top 9 in the NFL in pass attempts. We don't expect that again. We expect them to go more run heavy, more balanced this year. The fact of the matter is that Lamar Jackson is a former MVP quarterback who is still very good, still going to have to throw. Rashod Bateman doesn't need 146 targets to pay off here. Super talented player who played over 80% of the snaps over the final 4 games here. Had 6 games with double-digit targets when he got at least 5 targets.
Yep.
Double-digit fantasy points, I should say, when he got at least 6 targets. I'm just a big believer in the talent of Rashod Bateman. Believe
in the talent, and we saw it. He had 3 games of 80-plus yards last year. And also, the common refrain with Bateman is that, it's Lamar Jackson. It's a Baltimore running offense. But Lamar Jackson was on pace for 4,500 yards passing last year. And yes, that should come down. But at the same time, even if it comes down 800 yards, there's still enough to go around to support 2 receiving options. And if it's not Mark Andrews and Rashod Bateman, I mean, Isaiah Likely's not going to out-yard Rashod Bateman this season. Absolutely not. I mean, I am at 67th overall. Yahoo has him at 80. Again, you try to look for situations here. Good quarterback, good opportunity. Not a lot of competition for target share, and he's playing with, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And by the way, for those watching home, did you just see that video? There was no defenders. He literally ran one route. He scored a touchdown because there was no defenders on him and everything like that. It was just a practice route. He kind of fell apart in the last month, but that was because of Tyler Huntley. And all Tyler Huntley wanted to do was just throw the ball to Mark Andrews every single play, and it worked. But when he was playing with Lamar Jackson, he was much better. Now, another guy I know you like, Juju Smith-Schuster, who I think is interesting at 25-1 comeback player of the year. Now, it seems like he's created a bit of separation amongst those Chiefs wide receivers, and he's going to be the number 2 pass option after Travis Kelce. Why do you like Juju? Well, we just talked about Allen Robinson getting a massive quarterback upgrade. Think about Juju Smith-Schuster going from the last 2 years of Ben Roethlisberger to Patrick Mahomes. Small Ben. Yeah, from small Ben. I like that one. That's well done. I'm going to use that one. Right, going from small Ben to Patrick Mahomes, right? Yeah. I mean, Big Patrick. Listen. I'm not really. I don't think I'm ready for the TikTok collabs between him and Jackson Mahomes. Yeah. But other than that, I'm all in on Juju this year. 331 targets. 331 are available in the Chiefs' offense after the departure of Tyreek Hill, Byron Pringle, DeMarcus Robinson, and Darrell Williams. Actually, they combined for 331 targets last year. And yes, they got MVS, and yes, they got Sky Moore. But honestly, Juju Smith-Schuster was so good early in his career. He's still young here as well. If you see, you're looking here on your screen, you can see all the ADPs on Yahoo of the Chiefs pass catchers. And so Juju Smith-Schuster, who's going as wide receiver 23, I'm at wide receiver 21. But again, I'm at 43 overall. On Yahoo, he's going 69th overall. So I have him significantly higher in the overall ranks. I'm not saying he's Tyreek Hill, but if you're asking me, I think which one of these guys has the best chance of becoming close to Tyreek Hill? It has to be Juju. It has to be Juju. And look, I brought up an advanced statistic before, DVOA, another advanced statistic, date of birth, age. He's only 25 years old.
Which is insane.
Yeah, it feels like he's 29.
Yes.
Because he's not been good, really good, since 4 years ago when he put up 1426 yards, which would have ranked 5th in the league. So he's got that, and now he gets Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, a fantasy baseball analyst that I've known for a long, long time, and I admire, Ron Chandler, the great Ron Chandler, always used to say, once you display a skill, you own it. And so Juju has a top 10 fantasy finish in his career on his resume. He has a top 20 as well. And we know that talent is there. I think it was limited by Ben Roethlisberger. And I believe going to Kansas City, where they will move him all over the field, they'll move him out of the, put him into the slot as well.
Yep.
I think sky's the limit for Juju Smith-Schuster. Really high on him. We know the Chiefs' offense is going to score a ton of points, and we know he's really, really good. You're going to call me a homer on this one, and I don't care. I don't care, because somewhere back there is.
You're a homer.
They're right there. Can we get a shot of that? Thank you very much. Who's that? That's right, number 17.
We've got 50 jerseys on the wall,
exactly.
and 25 of them in Washington.
Yeah, well, these are like all my old jerseys. Just under the Terrell Pryor jersey. What are you going to do? But Terry McLaurin, number 17. Number 17 on the wall, number 1 in your hearts. Again, we talk about quarterback upgrades.
Yeah.
And Carson Wentz, whatever you think of Carson Wentz, Carson Wentz is the best quarterback that Terry McLaurin has ever played with in his career, and it's not close.
Yeah.
Again, you're talking about Taylor Heineke and Kyle Allen and Alex Smith and Dwayne Haskins, and it's been a tough sledding there for Terry McLaurin. And Carson Wentz is fine. Is fine. He's a professional quarterback who has a big arm. He can get it deep. We have seen him support Carson Wentz. We have seen him support fantasy relevant wide receivers, including Michael Pittman last year, right? Carson Wentz top 10 in on-target rate on deep passes. And so Terry McLaurin, who has at least 130 targets in consecutive seasons, he's one of only 6 wide receivers who can say that. He's one of 9 wide receivers to have at least 1,000 yards in consecutive years as well. He's the focal point of that offense. They are going to be more pass-heavy this year. Give me Terry McLaurin, who I have him, again, at 32nd overall. Yahoo has him at 43 overall. We both have him. I'm at wide receiver 14, wide receiver 15. But, again, I think he has a legit shot at being a top 10 fantasy wide receiver this year.
Yep. And the thing with Carson Wentz is Carson Wentz, to me, he's kind of like James Harden's defense, where when it looks bad, it's viral bad. And that's what sticks in your mind. It's the left-handed interceptions in the end zone that get run back. So, really, he was 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last season. So, he is a professional quarterback. But let's jump into the hate. Keenan Allen is a guy on your list. And I get it because he's older, and it's a little bit similar to the Miles Sanders thing, where there's just a lot of things that are there, and he's kind of teetering between additional target share for guys like Josh Palmer, between the age. I also think that the knock on this Chargers offense is they don't throw deep enough. I think that if they do throw more deep, it's going to help Mike Williams more than Keenan Allen. And look, Keenan Allen's going a lot earlier than Mike Williams and some other receivers we can talk about. But I think there's a good chance that Mike Williams is the Chargers receiver you want this year.
Jay, and that's the exact point, right? It's not about Keenan Allen being a bad player. Keenan Allen's a good player. All right? Well, this is not me. Again, hate is not about the player. It's about ADP. And this is about roster construction. Keenan Allen's currently going as wide receiver 11, 27th overall. And so last year in a Yahoo, the default scoring is half-point PPR. Mike Williams was the better fantasy wide receiver on a points-per-game basis and total points in half-point PPR than Keenan Allen was last year. I think you can make a very strong argument that you'd rather, straight up, you'd rather Mike Williams than Keenan Allen. And Mike Williams is going 16 picks later than Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's now in his 30-year-old season. 4 of the last 5 seasons, he's scored 6 touchdowns. There's not a high touchdown equity here. He's a volume play. And again, there's just, in terms of roster construction, I think you want to be in on the Chargers offense. And we did last year we did squad goals. I don't know that you want both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams in this offense. I like Austin Eckler quite a bit. We like Josh Palmer as a late sleeper. We like Gerald Everett as a late sleeper. So at some point, how much of this offense can you have? And I just, for where Keenan Allen is going, I say this all the time, I'd rather be off the bandwagon 1 year too early than 1 year too late. And I'm nervous about him as a wide receiver 1, which is where he's being drafted.
He's going ahead of A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, and Mike Williams. I'd rather have all 3 of those guys than Keenan Allen, straight up, as well as relative to position. Now, a guy I was a little bit surprised he had on your list is Jerry Jeudy.
Okay.
So hate. And the reason I was surprised is that I just don't think we know what Jerry Jeudy is. Because he comes in as the 15th pick in the draft, has a perfectly fine rookie season, but with his quarterbacks, I mean, Drew Lock, there's been some Jeff Driscoll action in there. Check down Teddy, I don't think really unlocked Jerry Jeudy. So why do you hate Jerry Jeudy? Relative to position.
Yeah, relative to position. Look, and by the way, I'm going against what I've just said about everyone else, which is like quarterback upgrade. Yeah. He also gets a massive quarterback upgrade. Jerry Jeudy's going to be a lot better than he was last year, okay? A lot better. But last year on a per-game basis, he was a wide receiver 50. He's currently going as wide receiver 22. Like, we think Jerry Jeudy's going to be better this year. There's no question. Asked and answered.
Yep.
Is he going to be 30 spots better? Because that's a lot to ask for a guy that in 2 years has 3 touchdowns. I get he's had bad quarterback play. Russell Wilson's a significant upgrade. But he's, again, you're talking about roster construction. I don't know that you want to invest in both Denver wide receivers. And Courtland Sutton's going around earlier. Give me Courtland Sutton, who has a top 10 finish, on a per-game basis on his resume. Here's Jerry Jeudy's being drafted. Again, it's all about opportunity cost. So Jerry Jeudy, who we think has talent, we loved his college tape, but again, so far in the pros, he has not produced big fantasy numbers. Whereas Courtland Sutton, who's also had crappy quarterback play, has produced, right? And so here's who Jerry Jeudy's going ahead of. He's being drafted ahead of guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, we just talked about, Brandon Cooks, Gabriel Davis, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I would rather have all those guys than Jerry Jeudy because all those guys are in similar or better situations than they were last year. All of them outperformed Jerry Jeudy. Again, I think this stat is crazy, but in 26 games, Jerry Jeudy has 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
In 26 career games.
Right.
I think Courtland Sutton leads this team in touchdown catches. So anyway, I'm being told I've filibustered too long. We don't have time for Amari Cooper. Just know that I want no part of that Cleveland passing offense. When we come back, we'll do more to love hate. The quarterbacks are next. I'll try to be more concise.
Makes me feel a little bit stronger about Kelsey maybe having one more magic ride with positional leverage here, at the close of his career.
Yeah, no, I like it. Rich, we're not laughing at you. We're laughing because I just drafted Logan Thomas because they all make fun of me for. Again, we've screwed the pooch on our draft. So 6 ways till Sunday. So now we're just making ourselves laugh. It is the RotoWorld Reunion Mock Draft Show. It premieres tonight, August 25th at 8 p.m. on the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. Check it out. A lot of fun, Jay. That's about the best thing I can say about our draft. Our friend Josh Norris, we got a bunch of the great RotoWorld alumni to come back for this draft, including our friend Josh Norris from Underdog, who tweeted, Denny just took Gabriel Davis ahead of DJ Moore, Mike Williams, Courtland Sutton, and Jalen Waddle in a PPR draft. This is actually factually correct. Find yourself somebody who looks at you the way Denny looks at Gabriel Davis. I thought I was high on Gabriel Davis, and make no mistake, Gabe Davis is on the love list this year.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't take him ahead of DJ Moore.
No, I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
I had a friend message me about, what was it like drafting with Matthew?
Yeah.
Was it a really good team that you guys picked up? And I was like, well, Matthew and I auto-drafted Jacoby Myers because we ran out of time on the clock. So it was a real expert draft.
If I can listen, this show is all about giving draft advice. And if there's one piece of advice you take away from this show, if nothing else, it's like when you're drafting, don't try to host a 12-person draft on Zoom with a partner.
Eating lobster rolls.
Right, eating lobster rolls when you only have a minute on the clock. And you're by the way, you're at the turn. So you have back to back.
The turn killed us.
The turn
really killed us.
So anyway, our team's a disaster. Yeah. So I highly recommend tuning in this just to see, if you feel bad about your draft, wait till you see how badly Jay and I did. It is time for quarterback love hate now, Jay. And to the surprise of nobody, Jalen Hurts, my fantasy football ride or die, makes the list.
We need a Hurts jersey on the wall.
We're going to
talk.
Jersey.
We're gonna talk about him.
We did draft Hurts.
We got Hurts.
Right, we got Hurts.
Yeah.
Everything else in our draft went wrong, but we at least did
we
get.
compared Jalen Hurts with Jacoby Myers.
Right, exactly. That's a strong correlation there. I mean, I don't know what else I can say about Jalen Hurts that I haven't seen in the show, but again, he was a guy who's a top 8 fantasy quarterback last year. In his first year in a new system, in Nick Sirianni's system, I think that gets lost a little bit. He had only 4 games as a rookie under Doug Peterson, a coaching staff that was fighting with the front office. Like the best receiver Jalen Hurts had was like Greg Ward, AAF superstar Greg Ward, former college quarterback Greg Ward. And so he had 4 games under that system. The whole thing was a disaster. Then last year, first year under Nick Sirianni, again, you may not have loved the passing yardage or the completion percentage, but he still finished as a top 8 fantasy quarterback. He made it up for you on the ground. Again, led the NFL in rushing touchdowns and rushing yards among quarterbacks. Just 16 passing touchdowns, but second year in Sirianni's system, having a second year of Devontae Smith and adding A.J. Brown, I think all those numbers go up. I'm as a top 4 fantasy quarterback this year. Again, look at Jalen Hurts' second year compared to Josh Allen's second year in the NFL. Jalen Hurts was better statistically across the board than Josh Allen. Third year, Josh Allen was the number 1 quarterback in fantasy when they gave him Stephon Diggs. They've given him
It's all about
Brown.
context because, I mean, he was throwing potential game-winning touchdown passes last year to Jalen Reagor. And now that's not going to be the case. It's going to be A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith in that spot. And I would just buy into the Eagles overall. Like we said earlier, they're now tied with the Cowboys, favorite for the division. They're plus 1,000 to get the 1 seed in the NFC, which I don't mind. I don't think they're the best team in the NFC, but I think they might have the best record because they play the easiest schedule in the league.
They have a great, that's right. That plus 1,000 bet's really interesting because, again, they have a great schedule. And if things break right for Philadelphia, they could easily be the 1 seed. Another team that things need to break right for this year are the San Francisco 49ers. Kyle Shanahan has kind of gone, I'm pushing all my chips in on Trey Lance, and I'm here for it. He made only 2 starts last year. He averaged 16.8 fantasy points per game. This is a guy, again, we talk about rushing. We talk about dual threat quarterbacks. He rushed for 120 yards on 24 carries last year. I love this quote from Trent Williams. He's given everybody confidence. He's giving everybody confidence in his ability and his poise, the way he commands the huddle. That's Trent Williams talking about Trey Lance. Again, I know a lot about football. You know a lot about football. Neither of us know nearly as much about football as Kyle Shanahan.
Look at that spiral.
And look at this spiral here. We're showing like footage of that. Like, putting the ball where only a guy can complete it. It seems, it's a little 2-hand touch here, but that's all right. That's all right. He's completing passes. And a non-contact drill.
Look at the slow-mo.
Oh, we got a slow-mo spiral.
Wow, that's never coming down.
Oh, dude, okay. He's got an arm. Anyway.
The thing with Trey Lance is that MVP players come out of nowhere. It's weird to say, but Patrick Mahomes was 50-1 to win MVP when he won it. Lamar Jackson was 60-1. Cam Newton, Matt Ryan as well, their MVP seasons, they came out of nowhere too. And if you're looking at players in that range, I think Lance makes the most sense just because we don't know anything about him. He could be really bad this year. He could also be the MVP. And I don't think any player as a rookie in a long time has been put in a situation, effectively as a rookie, has been put in as good a situation to succeed as Trey Lance. We've got Trent Williams manning your offensive line. You've got Kyle Shanahan scamming everything up. You've got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. Like, it's all set up for him.
And I 1,000% agree. I mean, as we talk about the rookie quarterbacks from last year, the Justin Fields, the Mac Jones of the world, right? The Trevor Lawrences, like, none of them have the weapons around them that Trey Lance does. And what gives me confidence, again, is like, I'm fully happy to admit I don't know nearly as much about football as Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan, who has a quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo still on the roster that led them to the playoffs, that led them to a playoff win last year, could say like, hey, or actually led them to 2. Be like, you know what? Kyle Shanahan's like, I'm pushing all my chips in on Trey Lance. To me, I think that's significant. Another guy that Kyle Shanahan actually wanted in San Francisco, and he used to coach when they were in Washington, and that's Kirk Cousins, which I think that Yahoo drafters are sleeping on. I'm at QB 14. We've talked about him a decent amount as well. One of only 6 quarterbacks to have over 30 touchdown passes each of the last 2 years. He's had over 4,000 yards passing, 6 of the past 7. Top 12 fantasy quarterback, 6 of the last 7 years as well. Again, last year, 33 touchdown passes on an offense that was bottom 14 in passing rate. Mike Zimmer out. Here comes Kevin O'Connell. They're going to be a pass-heavy offense, and we talk about weapons. Jefferson, Thielen, Irv Smith, KJ Osborne, Dalvin Cook out of the backfield. I think people are sleeping on the Vikings offense.
Yeah, and it's all about Kevin O'Connell and that shift from Zimmer. Like we were talking about yesterday, now they get the internet. in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Now they get microwaves. You're going to have to bash sticks together to create fire because they're going to be throwing the ball. It's going to be a more modern offense. And look, Kirk Cousins, if you stack up his stats last year side by side with Aaron Rodgers, not that different.
No.
And I think Kirk Cousins, he's not as good as Aaron Rodgers. He's not a top 5 quarterback, but he could absolutely have Matt Ryan's MVP season. He could get to that level for 1 year behind an offensive line that still isn't great, but isn't the car crash it was when he got there. And Justin Jefferson is as good a chance as anyone to win Offensive Player of the Year. Kirk Cousins, 40-1 MVP. I don't think that's insane.
I don't think so either. Again, my bold prediction on the RotoWorld Draft Guide show was Kirk Cousins over 40 touchdown passes this year. And I also think I'd be interested to know what the odds are on Kirk Cousins leading the NFL in touchdown passes, because I bet they're pretty ridiculous odds, and I actually think that's within the realm of possibility. I'm not saying it's likely, but I'm just saying, like, it's not a terrible bet. They are going to be throwing. Look at what Kevin O'Connell and Wes Phillips did last year in LA with Matthew Stafford. Obviously, McVay was there as well, but they had a big input in that offense, and that's where they were brought to Minnesota. Plus 1,600, by the way, I'm being told in my ear. Plus 1,600. I like that. How about that?
Yeah.
I'd throw a couple of bucks down on plus 1,600 for Kirk Cousins.
I think it's fine. Also, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility he leads the league in passing either, because he was flirting with that at a time last season, and they went back to running the ball all the time. But now we shift to height and Joe Burrow. I hope Chris Sims isn't watching, because I think Chris Sims thinks Joe Burrow is not just the best quarterback in the NFL, but he's the best small forward in the NBA. Yeah. He's the best athlete around.
Oh, no.
Joe Burrow.
No, this is weird, but Chris Sims and I were at his lawyer's house the other day, and I was just like, Chris, you're married. You have a family. Why is your will made out to Joe Burrow? But that's what Chris Sims has done. He is literally.
Do you hang out at Chris Sims' lawyer's house
all
often?
the time?
Yeah.
All the time. We were having, we were doing some legal work, getting some stuff done, and I mean, honestly, I was there to ask the lawyer to get a God, I screwed up the joke. What's the when you can't get near somebody? What's
restraining order?
Yeah, restraining order. Yeah. I screwed up the joke. I was going to say I was there to get a restraining order for Chris Sims on Joe Burrow, but anyway, whatever. But yeah, that's true. So Chris Sims has put Joe Burrow into his will. All of his many riches are going to the Burrow household. Here's my concern on Joe Burrow. It's not that he's a bad quarterback. He's a great quarterback. Yeah. We love Joe Burrow. Yeah. I like Joe Burrow. You like Joe Burrow. Everyone likes Joe Burrow. Chris Sims absolutely loves Joe Burrow. My concern is that people are loving him too much. He's going as quarterback 5. I'm a QB 10. Yeah. Quarterback 5. Like, he's going ahead of Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson and like a lot of guys. And my concern on Joe Burrow is the inconsistency. 33%. 33% of Joe Burrow's fantasy points last year came from just 3 games. Week 16 and Week 17, the 2 weeks, and then Week 7 at the Ravens. So 2 games against the Ravens and that shootout against the Chiefs in Week 17. Prior to that, he'd had 6 straight games. Yeah, so here are my rankings here. I don't know. Joe Burrow is makes me nervous. When you're talking about a guy who had 4 different games with fewer than 13 fantasy points last year, with the improved offensive line, obviously that helps Burrow. He's going to get more time, but also it's going to help that run game. This is a pretty good defense.
Taylor's conservative. He wants to run the ball.
That's right. It's a pretty good. They're not going to get into that many shootouts because it's a good defense. They want to run the ball with Joe Mixon. I don't know. Quarterback 5 is super. That's really high.
He had 941 yards against the Ravens across 2 games. A Ravens secondary that, particularly in the second game, they had me and you at cornerback. There's just nothing there. They had the second easiest schedule of opposing defenses last year, the Bengals. It's going to be a lot harder this year, so I think there's a lot of stuff. And I think the Bengals overall, they're going to probably be better than they were last year, and they're not going to make the Super Bowl because that's just how it works.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think people are enamored with the Joe Cool, and it was such a great story in the run to the Super Bowl, but I don't think the production is going to be there the way it will be for some other rushing quarterbacks. For him to be drafted inside the top 10, for a non-rushing quarterback to be drafted inside the top 10, you need massive touchdown upside. You need over 40 touchdown, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady type production, and I'm just not convinced that Joe Burrow gets there on a consistent basis. There are other quarterbacks on the hate list that are available on the column, Baker Mayfield, who's someone being drafted as
I didn't like that.
Top 17. I'm sorry. We can discuss it off air or during the break, which is right now. When we come back, tight end love hate as the fantasy football happy hour rolls on. 2-for-1 apps, by the way. Hey, here's the way to find all of our fantasy football analysis, specifically me, Matthew Berry, me. Here's what you can do. First off, watch on Peacock or our YouTube channel, the NFL on NBC. Please subscribe. You can listen to anywhere you get your podcasts and on the NBC Sports channel on Sirius XM Radio. You can also interact with me on social media, where I am at Matthew Berry TMR on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, pretty much every single platform except the Fantasy Life app, where I'm merely at Matthew Berry. Check that out. It is free. And also, of course, check out my rankings and my love-hate column, which is out today on NBCSportsEdge.com. As we roll through the love-hate show here, Jay, we are now up to tight ends. And I put Kyle Pitts on the love list. And, like, it's the most obvious shooting fish in a barrel pick you want to make. Like, I love Kyle Pitts. You love Kyle Pitts. Everybody loves Kyle Pitts.
We all love Kyle
Pitts. Maybe not Chris Sims, because, crazy. But everyone else loves Kyle Pitts. He's going number 3 overall, kind of the consensus tight end 3 in the industry. It's Andrews or Kelsey or Andrews at 1-2, and then you have Pitts. But I wanted to put him on the love list here specifically because I think it is very much within the realm of possibility that he's the number 1 tight end in fantasy this year. That's absolutely within the range of outcomes. And that I think most people sort of feel like it's Kelsey and Andrews, and then it's Pitts. And no. Pitts is right there. Like, it's a 1A, 1B, 1C scenario here.
Yeah, and it's kind of a weird thing to say, but I'm kind of buying the Falcons as a competent team. Their win total is 4.5, which I think has scope to go over.
Yep.
The offensive line is fine. Mariota isn't good, but he's okay. He's the tier below fine. And also, I think we'll probably see Desmond Ridder at some point. And Desmond Ridder is probably the most pro-ready of all the quarterbacks, so I think they'll be able to throw to Pitts. I think Drake London will take some attention off him as well, so I'd be all in with Kyle Pitts. Zach Ertz, another guy you're high on.
He played 11 games with the Cardinals. Think about Zach Ertz last year, right? He comes over to Arizona in the middle of the season, has to learn an offense like on the fly, and yet still, in the 11 games that he played with Arizona, Zach Ertz, top 4 in the NFL in targets per game, I should say, in targets per game, receptions per game, total fantasy points among tight ends. You think about Christian Kirk and Chase Edmonds, they both left the team. That means, and DeAndre Hopkins obviously has been suspended for the first 6 games.
24% target share for Ertz when Hopkins was out in the last month of the season.
24%. I mean, think about that. And by the way, 219 targets are available now with Kirk, Edmonds, Hopkins, in the suspension. Basically, you're talking about 37% of all passes went to those players. So I think he gets off to a hot start here. He's had the full offseason to sort of get immersed in this offense here. Cliff Kingsbury likes using the tight end. I don't know. I have him at tight end 8. He's going as tight end 10 on Yahoo, 91st overall. Give me Zach Ertz. I think he's a viable tight end 1 this year. In terms of some tight ends that I'm not crazy about this year, Mike Gesicki.
He's already a trade candidate. It's like McDaniel came in, gave him the offseason. I don't want this guy. Can't understand my concepts.
3 times. Only 3 times did he eclipse 60 receiving yards last year. He mostly was a volume play. He finished as tight end 8 last year, but on a points per game basis, he was just tight end 14. It was just because he stayed healthy throughout the year. Again, the Dolphins didn't really have anyone. It was like kind of like him and Jalen Waddle, and now you've added Tyreek Hill, you've added Chase Edmonds, you've added Cedric Wilson, you've added all these other weapons. And again, as you mentioned, there's already rumors about trading that they could be moving on from him.
Doesn't do anything after the catch either.
Correct.
Now another guy, Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert because he was last season he was second in the entire NFL among tight ends for yards per route run. The only guy in front of him was George Kittle. The guy right behind him was Mark Andrews. No Zach Ertz anymore. And I get that he's the 3rd receiving option on a team that might be a little run heavy, but why don't you like Dallas Goedert?
Tied for 16th in targets per game, 37th in red zone targets, tied for 39th in end zone targets, and all of that was without A.J. Brown there. We still expect this to be a slower run-first offense. I just don't know where he's going. He's going as tight end 7. He's going ahead of T.J. Hawkinson.
Never had more than 5 touchdowns in a season.
I just think that I'm just concerned. I think he's a better real-life player than fantasy player. He's fine as a tight end 1, as a lower-end tight end 1. I can't. Give me T.J. Hawkinson and Zach Ertz over him. Goddard is being drafted ahead of both those guys. I'd rather have Hockenson and Ertz at later ADP than where Goedert is currently going. So there you go. Love Hate is now up, if you're watching this on demand, is now up on NBCSportsEdge.com, RotoWorld.com. Appreciate the love. Thank you for reading it. We are back tomorrow. You're not back tomorrow. We have a new, but you'll be back on Monday. So listen.
Fired then rehired.
Hired then rehired. Look, it is closing time, which means you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Thank you so much for watching Love Hate. We are back tomorrow. For Jay, I am Matthew. Much love. Peace out.